Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Farisya, and I will start this presentation with introduction to our topic. Okay, first of all, haze are consisting of a solid or air pollutants like gases and particles in a liquid form. But if they are separately, these particles are harmless to the human eye, but they are apparent together as the temperature rises, and these particles expand in the size, rendering the haze denser. Besides that, the smoke, the haze is actually happen when the smoke from forest fire mixed with the land open burning and the urban air emission over cities, and it can cause harm to human health, damage ecosystem, as well as other socially valued material. And it is important to note that Indonesia is the third highest greenhouse gas transmitter in the country, largely because of its biomass and forestry operation, which can cause serious air pollution, which is haze, that has become the result of economic and public health crisis. Plus, Transboundary haze triggered by forest fire in Indonesia had impacted the air quality in nearby countries like Singapore and Malaysia for many years. It also reported that a main problem in 1997 when a smoke polluted the main cities such as Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok, Brunei and Jakarta for quite some time. Indonesia is the principal claimant to the haze phenomenon that has stunned Southeast Asia. Okay, next I will explain to you about the purpose of these studies. The purpose of these studies is to review the Indonesian haze issue through identifying the possible factors that could be the reason why this environmental problem could happen. Besides that, we also want to discover more about the effect of haze on public health, environment, economy, and education of the country. And with a better understanding and more extensive knowledge based on this issue, we can also come up with the solution to overcome and face the problem of haze in Indonesia.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Siti Dzulkafly. So now we will move to the factor of haze. So in Indonesian forest and peatland, it is naturally known as fireproof because of the damp microclimate that help to maintain throughout the year. So it's very uncommon to hear the fire disaster happen in Indonesian forest. If it happened temporarily and over limited areas, and it's also able to recover even during the El Nino seasons. However, because of the stable human modified ecosystem has locked to drainage for conversion, the process of changing into the industrial plantation on a massive scale. As a result, in 1997, fire disaster and also uncontrollable fire start to happen, which rising from where vast oil palm and palm wood plant expand, especially during the dry seasons. So the strong wind causes fire spin out of the control and spread even into the forest protected areas. Moreover, the forest fire that happened in Indonesia also caused by the many of the farmers that take advantages to practice shifting agricultures by using the traditional methods. The traditional methods was involved with the clearing tracts of rainforest land for cultivation by using the splash and burn method. So what is splash and burn method? Splash and burn method is also known as fire fallow cultivations, which is involved with cutting and burning a plant of a forest to create a field that called as swidden in that area. So actually, splash and burn method in Indonesia is illegal. However, because of the weak governance and corruptions, it become continuous. Despite of the uncontrollable forest fire that helped to produce haze in Indonesia, it become worse during the El Nino season. So El Nino season is caused by the increase of sea surface temperature of the Pacific Ocean, which is disrupt weather patterns and lead to less rainfall and storm. So since the weather is less rainfall and storm, it result to the dry and hot weather, which are conducive for shimmering the forest fire through strong wind at southwest monsoon, and leads to have haze produced by such fires. So because of that, it caused to the transboundary haze. So transboundary haze is a form of seasonal air pollution. So the outbreak of haze is happened in Indonesia due to 3 years forest fire and also El Nino seasons, hot weather and strong wind, especially in islands of Sumatra and Kalimantan. It sends huge volumes of smoke belonging to the Singapore and also Malaysia. So in Malaysia especially, because of that reason, because of the 300,000 hectares burned in Indonesia, because of the strong wind that spit out the haze, it notes that in 2019 was the worst haze in Malaysia. So it started in Sarawak, because in Malaysia states that close to Indonesia is Sarawak. So the visibility, because of the haze, the visibility in Sarawak are low to 200 meter, and the haze, and because of the haze is worse each day, it spread to the other states in Malaysia, such as in Johor and also Kuala Lumpur. However, Malaysia's initiative to reduce the haze is the Malaysian government's take an action to do the various of cloud seeding. So thank you for me.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Dato Yahya bin Awang. My name is Zetty Nadziha Bahrom. My metric number is 1624962. And today I will present about the effects of haze in Indonesia. So we have done research on 4 impacts under the effects of haze in Indonesia, which is number 1 is the effect of haze on health, second one on environment, third one on economic, and the last one the education impacts.
So the first point that I will present about the health impacts. So under this point, there are 3 sub-points that I will present to, which is number 1 is the respiratory problems, second one is the cancer risk, the third one is the mortality rate. So the health effects can be further classified into 2, local and systematic effects. So local effects can result in eye, nose and throat irritation. People with history of sinus problems or sensitive nose are more likely to develop nasal congestion, sore throat and coughing. There may be increased incidence of skin irritation as well for those with eczema or other skin conditions. So second point is those at highest risk of being affected by the haze should remain indoors. So as we know, many people were affected due to environmental problems like older people and children. Thus, children, as they are more vulnerable due to faster breathing rates and the fact that their lungs are still developing. However, elderly, as they are more prone to adverse health conditions because of past medical conditions. So the symptoms under respiratory problems, which is the cough, bronchitis, breathing difficulties and decreased lung function. The second subpoint is the cancer risk. So systematic effects can be classified under cancer risk, which are more serious. This can range from respiratory conditions such as asthma attacks and bronchitis to worsening of heart diseases such as heart attacks or heart failure. There have also been suggestions that long-term exposure to air pollution may give rise to increased risk of cancer. So the most common cancers, and this is the most common cancers and highest death
toll of all disease. So people who breathe in the outdoor are more risk than people who stay in the house. So there have also been suggestions that long-term exposure to air pollution may give rise to increased risk of cancer. The third subpoint is the mortality rate. So the effects of haze can lead to mortality in most countries. So this is the most worrying in most affected countries. So the haze sometimes it contains chemical makeup similar to biomass smoke, although exposure to pollution is usually at lower level over an extended period. The higher risk of mortality among children and elderly people are poor or impaired immune system and pre-existing health implications. So in general, the health impact, children, elderly and people with chronic lung disease or heart disease are more sensitive to the health effects of haze and should adopt the preventive measures in the MOH health advisory when air quality is poor. Individuals are advised to consult their doctors should they develop breathing difficulties. In addition, it is advised that pregnant women reduce exposure to haze for the health of their unborn baby. The last point is the environment impacts. The effects of haze really give the big impacts to flora and fauna itself. Effects on flora or plants by settling on leaves and reducing the strength of the sun's rays. The particulates and chemicals in the haze affect plants' reproductive and photosynthesis capability, plus the smoky conditions also reduce the ability of insects to pollinate flowers. So the third one is the effects on fauna or effects on animals. Animals will lose their habitat due to forest fire. This is one of the reasons of decreasing orangutan population in Indonesia. The forest fires have destroyed many of the natural habitats in Indonesia like orangutans, and as we know, Kalimantan is the home to many regions of orangutans besides in Malaysia, Sabah. Therefore, where do the animal want to live if their shelter was polluted with haze and fire? The picture below is the show of the effects of haze due to air pollution. This picture is happened on last year, which is the Indonesia sky turned red province of Jambi caused by widespread forest fire. That's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aini Syuhaida. So I will talk about the economics and education impacts on the environmental problems in Indonesia. So the first impact to economic is the haze from the fires in Indonesia province affected not only Indonesia but also included many countries such as Malaysia and Singapore. According to World Bank, the Transboundary haze situation was the worst in 2015 and the estimated is at 7.3 billion. There was also cost at the global level in terms of the massive release of climate change gases. According to Saidahtul Islam and others, there are more people feel ill due to this haze, amounting to heftier medical fees and work absenteeism, which was translated to work productivity loss. Furthermore, the impact was seen in the form of declining tourism and recreations in haze-affected area, which affected the performance of business. For example, the schools and businesses were ordered to be delayed or cancelled. Its tourism sector was so declined since the tourism hotspot was affected by the fires and haze. For example, most of the Kutai National Park and the Kalimantan was burned, and the Indonesia air flight carrying 234 people on the board was crashed due to the poor visibility from the haze. So, the economic costs that countries incur comprise private costs that are usually taken into account, such as damage and loss of economic goods and services. The another impact is on education. Education is one of the institutions that are affected because of the haze issues. There are 1,000 schools that have been closed across Malaysia and Indonesia. This is because Malaysia was one of the countries that are also affected because of the haze that happened in Indonesia. According to Al Jazeera News 2019, It is affecting at least 1.7 million of students. In 2009, as toxic haze from rampant forest fires in Indonesia sent air quality plummeting. In Indonesia, there were hundreds of schools in hard-hit Riau province on Sumatra Island that were also said to be closed without providing a precise number, while about 1,300 were closed in Central Kalimantan province on Borneo, according to Newswire's 2019. This is because Borneo has shared between Indonesia, Malaysia, and also Brunei. Therefore, the haze was the worst because it is not only affect the public health but also the education, where the schools had been closed for a few days. Therefore, the ministry cannot give the instruction whether the parents have to send their children to the schools or not, because this worst is the uncertainty of what is going to happen. This haze is disruptive the routine as well as causing an impact on the learning process of the children.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Saidahtul Amirah Binti Abdul Kayum. I will present on the suggestion to address the issue of haze pollution in Indonesia. So the forest fire in Indonesia usually will lead to the transboundary haze pollution in Southeast Asia, which will affect the neighboring countries like Malaysia and Singapore. Because of that, we think that this issue should be needed the attention of all affected countries. However, Indonesia should be held accountable to start the first step or take any measures to stop the haze, then followed by the help from affected countries if it getting worse. Looking at the cause of forest fire that came from the slash and burn activities for the agricultural purpose, it is suggested that Indonesia should strengthen the law by imposing a sanction towards those who commit the offence. For example, like bringing this issue to the court proceeding and ask for compensation with huge amount that worth of the damage. This should be done without compromise, since it has caused a damage not only to the Indonesia itself but also other countries. Other than that, Indonesia is suggested to consider any help from the outside. This issue has been getting an attention from the higher authorities like the Association of Southeast Asia Nation or ASEAN. In order to address the issue, ASEAN has created an agreement on transboundary haze pollution or AATHP in 2002. And in 2014, there was an additional approach by Singapore which forcing its own enabling legislation known as Singapore Transboundary Haze Pollution or HTPA. This Transboundary Haze Pollution Act or THPA by Singapore is targeting those who are in or outside Singapore from taking part in activities that contribute to transboundary haze pollution affecting Singapore. Both parties might lacking in any ways or does not meet the desired purpose or Indonesian expectation, because at the first place Indonesia was yet to ratify the ASEAN agreement that led to the ineffectiveness of this approach. That is why Indonesia should consider to open up to any acts offered, and all involving parties should sit together to revise the rules or legislation to meet a mutual consensus so that the purpose of the initiative will be achieved. All in all, everyone should be held accountable and responsible for this issue, especially those in agricultural sectors who practice illegal activity. Because if the forest fire is caused by the natural climate change, there is nothing much we can do. So, every country also should be united together and be cooperative to solve the haze pollution. That is all from me. Thank you.
In conclusion, Indonesia is a country that has been the major cause of transboundary haze between many Southeast Asia countries, and there are many factors that contribute to the haze to happen in the country, such as the situation when the uncontrolled fire rising where vast oil palm and pulpwood plant expand when spread fast during the dry season, and it also burned the protected forest area. Besides, farmers taking advantage by practicing a simple way in shifting agriculture. They use a slash and burn method, which they cut and burn the plants in the forest cultivation. The hot and dry weather also can become one of the factors for haze to occur, which it can be called as a natural disaster. And other than that, there are many things affected by the haze, like the public health of the citizen in Indonesia, cancer risk and mortality increase, and children, elderly, heart disease, and diabetic patients become the highest risk individual due to the haze. Besides that, haze also affect the environment as it affect all the living things because they are all exposed to the poisonous smoke, and water also can be contaminated. The forest fire destroy a natural habitat of the protected forest. Most of the country that were affected by haze were having a critical economic situation. There are a lot of people getting sick and need to be treated immediately, which are really costly by the government. Plus, many educational institutions need to be closed as the air quality was really bad, and there were no outdoor activities can be conducted, which impact the teaching and the learning process. There are also several suggestions to overcome haze, such as Indonesia government need to impose sanction for those who commit this offence by penalize them, giving a big compensate that brought this case to the court proceeding in order to make sure that people will take this problem seriously. Besides that, Indonesia also advised to open up to any aid offered by the Asian countries so that this problem can be solved effectively. Public awareness of haze crisis in Indonesia needs to be widespread as basic literacy and ingrained as a public knowledge of smoking, pesticide, and sanitation link urban health and safety concern. And after all, a knowledgeable Indonesian population could prove to be the most important force to reform required to successfully handle the haze in the future century. That's all from us. Thank you.